Hey, sports fans, welcome back to another episode of Bucky's Sports Show. Today we're going to be talking about the Indiana State Sycamores and all the good performances that they had on the field or on the court in the last week. We're going to start off with the Indiana State Sycamore softball team. That's right, softball got started on a fall schedule this weekend. Yesterday they played at home against Olney Central College and Parkland. They were able to beat Olney 1-0, and they lost to Parkland 5-4. In my opinion, those are games that you have to win by a wide margin. You're talking about two JUCO colleges. Olney especially is not known for sending a whole lot on to the Division I level. You have to beat them by more than one run. Now, you didn't let them score, but you've got to be able to put more than one run on the board. And then Parkland, again, another JUCO college, and you can't beat them. If they're going to compete, they have got to figure this out. Splitting on the day, not a good sign, in my opinion. We will move on to cross country. Our cross country teams hosted the John McNichols Invitational at the Laverne Gibson Championship cross country course, and our men's team was third out of 13 teams. Scoring for the men were Emerson Feynman. He came in 6th with a time of 25 minutes, 12.4 seconds. Ryan York was 11th at 25:29.6. Mason Nobles 13th at 25:36.4. Brandon Mueller was 29th at 26:08. And rounding out the scoring for the Sycamores was Xander Fackler at 26:15.2. Overall, third place, again, I don't want to say it was poor, because they did beat Evansville, who ran in this. They did beat Eastern Illinois, but everyone else in this was non-division. Well, no, Miami of Ohio won. So now everyone else in this was non-division one. Now they had the Washington University out of St. Louis. They had Rose-Hulman. They had University of Indianapolis. They had Vincennes. They had Muskingum, Spoon River, Anderson, St. Mary of the Woods, and Danville Area Community College. I just feel like they probably should have beat the Washington. I think they had a couple good runners show up for them. Probably 3. Everyone else needs to start stepping it up a little bit. You gotta have 5 score for you. So if the men's team's going to find success, they've got to pick up their times and start knocking times off, especially with that field. On the women's side, Brittany Burak came in 3rd. She finished at 21:46. Peyton Smith finished 4th. She was 21:49.5. Sawyer DeWitt finished 5th. She was 22:03.8. Nister Grant finished 11th at 22:23.5. And Hadley Gradoff finished 22:27.5 there to round out the scoring for the women's team. Now, the women's team, they were able to finish 2nd behind Miami of Ohio. Them having the 3, 4, 5 place was a huge help, and in all actuality had a pretty good day. They beat everyone they needed to beat, probably supposed to beat. They beat Washington. They beat Eastern Illinois. They beat Evansville. They beat Vincent. They beat Indianapolis. They beat Rose-Hulman. They beat Muskingum. They beat St. Mary of the Woods. They beat Anderson. In all actuality, they tied in total points with Miami of Ohio, 37-37. So it actually came down to a tiebreaker in which Miami of Ohio won that tiebreaker. So we were right there, just did not get that job done. But getting that tie against Miami of Ohio, kind of just a tough way to lose an invitational you're hosting. But everyone had a good time. Just, hats off to Miami of Ohio. They were just a notch quicker on that day. We are going to move on to women's soccer. Women's soccer started their Missouri Valley Conference play over the weekend. They played at the University of Northern Iowa, and that came to a 3-3 tie. This was a very interesting game to watch, to say the least. Kind of a wild game. In the first half, Indiana State only got one shot off, and it was a goal by Alex Leonard, and it was assisted by Lena Fasquell. And then the second half, they were able to get 8 shots off. In the first half, UNI got 7 off, and then the second half equaled Indiana State's 8. So UNI really dominated the first half, but Indiana State played right with them in the second half. Alex Leonard's goal came at the 23:04 mark. Northern Iowa answered right back. Olivia Kneffel had a really nice goal. She took it opposite upper corner of the goal that just could not get saved. Their second goal, the first goal of the second half, was actually on a corner kick that was saved by Indiana State. And when the defense tried to clear the ball, it hit Indiana State teammate in the hip and ricocheted back into the goal. So it was almost like an own goal, but I don't believe soccer does own goals because Olivia Kneffel was given credit for the goal. But just kind of a way to shoot yourself in the foot when you're got a 1-1 tie going on. Now at the 53-14 mark, UNI, they added another goal. In Northern Iowa, they led 3-1 with 8 minutes to go in this game. And that's when Tori Angelo, she tied it up on an assist by Alex Leonard. And then with just under 2 minutes to play, I believe it was a minute 54 to play, Avery Orgel had a goal that was assisted by Alex Leonard, and Indiana State was able to hold on to get that tie. So a pretty even match in the second half. UNI really dominated the first half. The second half was pretty even. The shots ended up 15-9 in favor of UNI, 8-5 on shots on goal. Saves, Indiana State had 5 to UNI's 2. Corner kicks, UNI had the advantage there, 5-4. And the fouls, UNI had 9 to Indiana State 6. So Indiana State played a little bit more of a clean game, but UNI was the aggressor for the most part of this game. Really, the last 4 minutes is when Indiana State really controlled the tempo of the game, not allowing UNI to play their kind of slow style tempo pace that they were playing. But this moved Indiana State to 4-3-4, 0-0-1 in conference play. Missouri Valley does use a point system for their games, so the ties become a little bit more understanding in conference play than they did in out of conference play, but I still don't like a tie. But Indiana State's got a point on the board for conference standings. They were able to fight back and get that. So, really, really nice finish there for Indiana State to come back and get that tie and get that point. We are going to move on to volleyball. And the volleyball team had a very nice week on the court. They started on Thursday night at the Tennessee State Tiger Invitational, and they played the host Tennessee State off the bat, and they won this 3-0. They won set 1 25-14, set 2 25-12, and set 3 was 25-18. Some things that we always look at here: hitting percentage. Indiana State's hitting percentage was 40.5%. Their lowest percentage in these matches was set 1, where they were at 37.2%. And even in that one, they only had one error. So a really, really nice job from the Sycamores in their hitting. And set 1, again, points kind of went back and forth. Score a couple, give up a couple. Indiana State really didn't start pulling away until it got to 13-10. And then they were able to build it up to 15-11. And then 20-13. And then at 20-14, Indiana State scored the last 5 points to close that match out. So kind of nice when seeing that Indiana State's kind of been struggling to close out matches and letting teams back in it, that they did not do that in this set. I should say set and not matches there. My mistake. Set 2, again, kind of the same thing. Indiana State gets up 4-1. Tennessee State battles back to make it 6-5. Kind of some runs. Started pulling away when it was 10-7. They got to 13-7, then 17-8, and then 20-9. They got to 24-10. Allowed Tennessee State to score a couple points, then put it away on a kill from Kimura Whetstone to give them a 25-12 victory there in set 2. Set 3 was a lot of the same, back and forth scoring until it was 11-11, and then Indiana State went on a good run to make it 16-11. Then 16-13, Indiana State had another nice run, make it 21-13. We traded some points again. We got it to 23-17. Then Indiana State kind of put it away there, 24-17, 25-18, to close out set 3 and the match. Again, pretty good performance there. Ava Robart, she had led in kills with 17. Ella Scott, Macy Longacre, Avery Hills, and Ava Robart all had one ace apiece to lead in that. Kimora Whetstone and Ava Robart had 3 blocks apiece to lead in blocks. Emily Weber had 20 assists to lead there, and Kiara Holland had 10 digs. Ava Robart, she had a really, really nice match there. Hopefully that will continue, as she is just a freshman. So hopefully that allows her to move on with some confidence. Just really, really, really nice performance from her. Match 2 was Friday morning against the Idaho Vandals, and Indiana State won this one 3-1. Idaho won the first set 25-22. Then Indiana State got woke up and they won 25-14, 25-20, and 25-23. And again, looking at the hit percentage that we talk about, Indiana State was 29.8%, pretty solid. On the day, set 3, they had no errors. They had 16 kills with no errors. They were at 50% on that set. Just a really, really nice performance there. Set 4 was the only set they were below 20%, and that was at 18.9%. But they managed to scratch that win out there. Set 1, exchange points quite a long ways here. Idaho was ahead at 11-10, and then they got on a 6-point run, got it to 17-10. Again, then they exchanged points for a little bit, and then Indiana State at 19-12. They kind of start to scratch their way back into it and got it to 23-20, and then again to 24-22 before the Vandals were able to close the match out at 25-20. Or sorry, 25-22. Set 2, Indiana State got out to a 7-2 lead, and then they didn't really look back. Got to 17-7, 22-9. Allowed Idaho to go on a little run there. At 22-9, they got to 22-13, and then Indiana State was able to close it out 25-14. Set 3, again, just kind of back and forth on points, tied at 12. Indiana State scores a couple. Idaho answers, tied at 15. Indiana State got up 17-15. And then Idaho broke that scoring run up, and after that is kind of when Indiana State put it away. Again, Ava Robart, she went on a nice little scoring run, got up to 21-16, and then they just kind of traded points the rest of the way until Indiana State closed it out at 25-20. And set 4. This one, again, was back and forth. Indiana State has 6-4 lead. Idaho goes up 7-6. Idaho actually gets up 16-10 at one point, 17-12, 19-12. And then Chloe Gilly goes on a little scoring run, cut it to 19-17. And they trade some points, and then Kiara Holland goes on a scoring run to give Indiana State a 23-21 lead. And then they just trade points the rest of the way, and Indiana State closed it out at 25-23. So they really had to battle in this. Had some close sets. The first one didn't go Indiana State's way. They were able to close out the third and the fourth one. Second one, they just kind of kept Idaho out. of it the entire time. Leaders for the Sycamores. Ella Scott and Ava Robart led in kills with 15 each. Aces, Ella Scott and Chloe Gilly had 2 each. Kimora Whetstone, Emily Weber, Ella Scott all had 3 blocks. Avery Hells had 32 assists. Chloe Gilly had 21 digs. A really good win here. Idaho has played some good teams, so this was a nice win for the Sycamore. Going to the final match for Indiana State. That was against Chattanooga, and Indiana State came away with a 3-2 victory. Chattanooga won set 1, 25-18. Indiana State came back to win sets 2 and 3, 27-25, 25-14. Chattanooga came back to win set 4, 26-24. And Indiana State scratched out set 5 at 15-13. And again, we talk about the hitting percentage, 29.8%. And again, set 3, no errors. 17 kills, no errors. They hit 63% in that set. Pretty good, pretty good. They did finish below the 20% mark in the first 2 sets at 17.8% and 18%. And the last 2 they hit at 33.3% in each of those sets. So really had a nice performance there as well. Set 1, Chattanooga got up to a 7-1 lead. Indiana State then kind of starts clawing their way back into it, got it to 9-7, then 11-9, and then Chattanooga kind of went on another little run, make it 18-13. Indiana State just didn't go away. Even when down 20-14, they just kind of tried to keep clawing their way back. Just couldn't make it stick. Chattanooga won set 1, 25-18. Set 2, this one, a lot of like the first, minus Chattanooga's big run. Just a lot of back and forth points. Indiana State gets out to a 4-2 lead. Chattanooga comes back to take the lead. Indiana State comes back to take the lead. Chattanooga comes back. Indiana State responds. And it went this way until about 17-17. Then Chattanooga got up 20-17. Indiana State down 22-20. They won the next 3 points to take a 23-22 lead. And then they just kind of exchanged points for a little bit, tied at 24. Indiana State had a 25-24 lead. Had a service error to give Chattanooga the serve at 25-25. And then Indiana State got a kill from Ella Scott and another one by Curry Kendall to close out that set to make it a 27-25 Indiana State victory. Set 3, a lot of the same. Kind of back and forth scoring wise until about 8-7. Then Indiana State went on a run with Ella Scott serving to make it 13-7. Then they exchanged some points again. Then Ava Robar went on a little run, get it up to 18-9. Chloe Gilly goes on a run, get it 21-10, 24-12, and then Kara Holland put a kill down at 25-14 to win set 3. Set 4, Indiana State got out to a 4-1 lead. Chattanooga answered with get it to 4-4. Again, just some back and forth points. Chattanooga went on a run to make it 10-7. Indiana State responded with a couple. Chattanooga went on another small run, make it 14-9. Indiana State went on a small run, make it 15-13. But Avery Ells went on a small run there to get it tied back up at 17. And then they just exchanged points back and forth. No one really went on a run to 22-22. Chattanooga was up 24-22. Indiana State was able to get it back to 24-24. Unfortunately, Chattanooga then scored the next 2 points to win set 4. So Indiana State was right there. Then in set 5, Chattanooga got out to a 4-1 lead. Thankfully, Indiana State cut that off real quick, got it back to 4-3. Then Chattanooga jumped out to 7-3, then 8-4. The problem with allowing the big runs in these fifth and decisive sets is it only goes to 15. So Indiana State at 8-4 scored a couple. Then Chattanooga still got it to 11-8. And that's really when Indiana State started to make their run. They cut it to 11-10. And then they got it to 13-12. Chattanooga tied it at 13-13. But Kiara Holland came away with 2 straight kills to give the Sycamores a 15-13 win in the set and a 3-2 win in the match. Indiana State led kills by Kiara Holland with 22. Ava Robart added 19. She had a really nice tournament. Ella Scott led in aces with 4. Blocks, Kimora Whetstone and Emily Weber both had 2 each. Emily Weber added 36 assists. And Kiara Holland added 21 digs. Again, Chattanooga, they played some big teams. They played Alabama and a couple other bigger name teams. Probably a pretty good win here for Indiana State. Maybe Indiana State's best win on the season so far. That moves Indiana State to 6-6. Huge tournament there for the Sycamores. They actually hit 32.3% on the tournament. A fantastic 3 matches there for them. They are rolling right now at the right time as they start conference play next week. So hopefully that momentum carries on and we see some big things coming in conference play. All right, let's move on to football. Indiana State had a tough one last week against Indiana. And this week, it was a little easier. But they faced FCS number 5, the Montana Grizzlies. And the Grizzlies lived up to their nickname, and they were Bears. Montana won this game 63-20. From the standpoint of last week against IU not having a lot to talk about, not a whole lot to talk about in this one either, but there were some positives in this game other than, the only positive in the IU game was getting a paycheck. This game, there were some on-field positives. So, let's get to that. First, the quarterback, Keegan Patterson, he went 15 for 27, 189 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. His longest pass was 51 yards. Unfortunately, he was sacked 3 times. O-line's going to have to do a better job of giving him just a little bit more time. Rushing, this was one of the bright spots. Nick Osho, he had 5 attempts, and he ran for 134 yards and 2 touchdowns. His long was 79-yarder. He averaged 26.8 yards a run. A really, really nice 5 rushes there for him. Those could end up being very big because Ples Lawrence, who had 15 attempts and 57 yards, with a long of 12, he was injured in the game. And I cannot find anything. I don't know how bad it is. But if he has to miss some time, Nick Osho, man, when you're putting up 134 yards and number 5 team in the country, he's gonna get some work. He's gonna get some work here coming up. Receiving, Rashad Rochelle. Again, the Rutgers transfer in. I talked a couple weeks ago about expecting big things from him. He had 75 yards, 1 touchdown, and that touchdown was the 51-yard pass attempt from Patterson. He also had a huge one that was called back due to a holding penalty on the offensive line. So he could have very easily been around 125 yards on the day had that holding penalty not been called. Rest of receiving, Torrey French had 41 yards, 2 receptions. Brian Domino, 22 yards, 3 receptions. Larry Stevens III had 16 yards on 2 receptions. Then everyone else had 1 reception. Rocco Sioka, I hope I said that right, had 13 yards. Ples Lawrence 9. Zach Droudy Jr. had 7. And Lance Reese had 6. So kind of spreading the wealth there on the receiving end. O-line needs to give the quarterback just a little bit more time to find a couple people. Like I said, a huge pass to Rochelle that was called back due to penalties. Just really, really, it was going to be a tough game. This game was played at Montana, but when you're going to number 5 Montana, it just was not going to be an easy game, and that showed. But again, you look at the drives and just nightmares. Their first drive, 3 plays, 4 yards. Had to punt. Second drive, 10 plays, 19 yards. Had to punt. Their third drive, that one ended in a touchdown. It was 4 plays, 75 yards. Then 3 plays, 3 yards, punt. 3 plays, 7 yards, punt. 4 plays, lost 4 yards, fumble. 3 plays, 9 yards, punt. 5 plays, 45 yards, punt. And those were all in the first half. Second half, 3 plays, minus 3 yards, interception. 5 plays, 26 yards, punt. 6 plays, 21 yards, punt. 4 plays, 75 yards, touchdown. Then your next possession is the long run by Osho. 1 play, 79 yards, touchdown. And then 4 plays, 17 yards punt there towards the end of the game. But their time of possession when they aren't scoring, they really had one long drive. And even with the scoring drives, they just really had one long drive that took 4 minutes and 36 seconds. They have to control the ball. They have to keep the possession of ball. The time of possession, they have to win every single time when they're playing these teams to give themselves a chance to win. Because that's kind of what Montana was doing. And don't get me wrong, Montana had some short drives too. But their short drives, their first possession was a 3 and 6 with a punt. And then they went six plays, 34 yards and a punt. After that, 1 play, touchdown. All right, here's a touchdown drive, 10 plays, 75 yards. They held the ball for just under 4 minutes, touchdown. 10 plays, 74 yards, held it for 4:45, touchdown. 5 plays, 82 yards, minute 30. Here's 2 plays, 25 yards, 25-second drive for a touchdown. 5 plays, 92 yards, touchdown, minute 53. Here's another good example. 15 plays, 80 yards, 8 minutes and 16 seconds. 8 minutes, 16 seconds for a touchdown. And then 11 plays, 74 yards, 6 minutes, 26 seconds, touchdown. Then they went 3 plays, 4 yards, punt. Even those 3 plays took 2 minutes, 10 seconds. And then they held the ball to end the half with the last, or to end the game with the last minute, 8 seconds. But they just dominated the time of possession. 8 minutes, 26 seconds, 6:26, 2:30, 3:55, 4:41. And Indiana State had 1 drive of 4 minutes and 36 seconds. And then their next longest were 2 minutes 40 seconds, 2 minutes 28 seconds, and 2 minutes 3 seconds. Their times of possession are just not good. All right, a minute 13, 4:36. Minute 21 ended in a touchdown. We're good with that. But here, you go 3 plays, 3 yards, and have to punt it, and you only hold the ball for 49 seconds. 49 seconds. 3 plays, 7 yards, minute 19. Here, you fumbled the ball, but you ran 4 plays and still only had it for just over a minute. And then the punt at 2:03, and then 5 plays, a minute 11. 5 plays, minute 11. Then the three plays ended in an interception, only 34 seconds. 3 plays. You ran 3 plays in 34 seconds. That's 10 seconds a play, and it takes a play 4 or 5 seconds to run. Here's the 6 plays, 2 minutes and 40. And then the next 2 ended in touchdowns, so you take those, but a minute 22, the 1 79-yard touchdown for 13. And then 4 plays, 2 minutes. That's a lot better than the others. But my goodness, some of these are just astounding how fast they're playing, and it's not working. You can play an up-tempo game and still run the clock. Have an offensive line that's got a little bit of discipline and run your hurry-up offense, but you don't have to snap the ball. You can hold the ball and let the clock run and try to draw the defense off. They are going to have to start controlling that if they want to have any possibility winning games on what's coming up. This was their last non-conference game. Missouri Valley, it's good. Their next games at number 11 Southern Illinois. Pretty solid team there. So coming up, they got number 11 at number 11 Southern Illinois, number 21 South Dakota, number 1 North Dakota State. South Dakota and North Dakota State are home games. So, and then they go to North Dakota, who's number 17, and then they have South Dakota State, who's number 2, and then they host Illinois State, who's number 4, and then they're at Youngstown State, who's now number 24, and then they finish with Murray State at home, who is not ranked. Not ranked for now. So as we set right now, Indiana State has 8 games left, 7 of them against ranked opponents. Now, obviously, as conference play gets started and teams start beating teams, that can change. But right now, 7 out of your 8 games you have left are against ranked teams. Just a monster of a schedule. And they're holding the ball for less than 2 minutes almost every time. Almost every time they're holding the ball for less than 2 minutes, and then your defense has to try and stop a 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 minute drive, and it just wears your defense out. You have to control the football, and they're not doing that. And if they want any chance of beating anyone left on that schedule, they're going to have to control the football and slow their pace of play down a little bit. Like I said, you can still play fast, but you've got to be able to start controlling the football. Now, next week, the football team does have a bye week, so there will be no football next week. The softball team, they will be at Indiana at IU on the 28th. In cross country, they don't return to action until October the 3rd, and they actually have 2 there. They will run in Notre Dame's, and I don't know if I'll say this name correctly, Joe Pine Invitational. Again, that's Notre Dame's there in South Bend. Again, not sure who all will be in that. And then they will also run some people in the runners that don't run at Notre Dame will stay back and run in the cross-country town Twilight there at the Laverne Gibson course. That is a fun meet for some because there are high schools that go and run and can stick around and watch some college teams compete in that. So the boys JV is a 6:30 start, followed by the girls. Then the boys varsity starts at 8, followed by the girls. And then the men, they run at 9 p.m. and the women run at 9:45. And then there's some fireworks afterwards. So just kind of a neat night there at Laverne Gibson for some of the, especially for some of the high school kids. They get to stick around and get to watch the competition and maybe get discovered by a college coach. So big day for cross country on October the 3rd for both the men's and women's teams. Women's soccer, they host the University of Illinois Chicago on the 25th, and they play at Evansville next Sunday. Not sure on my schedule end how I am going to cover that, but both of those will be covered. The Sunday at Evansville may get covered the following week. We'll see how some of the other episodes go that I do. Volleyball. Again, tremendous week this week. 3-0 at the Tiger Invitational, which is Tennessee State's invite. They are home next week. They are playing Illinois State on Friday night, and then their cancer game is Saturday the 27th against Belmont. Both of those games are at the ISU Arena. Friday night starts at 6, Saturday night starts at 5. And another team we have not talked about, the swimming and diving. They have their inter-squad meet on Friday the 26th. Probably not going to do anything with that, but if you're in Terre Haute and you want to go to the Vigo County Aquatic Center and watch some swimming and diving, ISU will be there at 6 p.m. So a lot going on this coming week. So that will wrap up this episode. We will be back next week to talk about the Sycamores. Hopefully just as successful as they were this year or this week. And we will see you next time. Make sure you like, subscribe, review, comment. And if you have anything you want me to discuss, email me at buckysportsshow@gmail.com. As always, enjoy the games and go Sycamores!